We are celebrating Women's History Month with a closer look at a local pioneer, Margaret Heckler. She was the first Congresswoman in Massachusetts, the first female Health and Human Services Secretary, and first female ambassador to Ireland. As Boston 25's Kelly Sullivan explains, now her life is being celebrated in a new book written by her daughter-in-law.
She was a woman in a man's world and a Republican in a Democratic state.
Born to Irish immigrant parents in New York, Margaret Heckler was given away at birth and grew up in a boarding house. She was the only woman in her graduating class from BC Law School in 1956. With her sights on politics, her husband suggested she run as a Republican.
So she would be a moderate Republican coming in 1966 and beating out a 42-year veteran incumbent, Joseph W. Martin, who had served as Speaker of the House twice. So here comes 35-year-old, 5'2" strawberry blonde Margaret Heckler.
Heckler represented District 10 during the second wave of feminism in the 1970s. As daughter-in-law Kimberly Heckler outlines in her book, A Woman of Firsts.
She was a lawyer and a congresswoman and couldn't get credit cards in her own name.
So Heckler authored the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, granting women the right to receive credit. She co-sponsored Title IX and the Equal Rights Amendment, and she pushed President Ronald Reagan to appoint the first female Supreme Court Justice, Sandra Day O'Connor.
And he would say later that it was one of his greatest decisions that he made, being President of the United States.
Margaret Heckler served under Reagan as the first Health and Human Services Secretary during the AIDS pandemic. She was also the first female ambassador to Ireland.
So she is an American success story, and she is a historical figure that people need to look at today, especially in light of our times, that she was so bipartisan. She crossed the aisle easily, and her best friends were on the left, actually.
She is a perfect example for people who have to stand up and continue to fight.
Senator Ed Markey was a friend and one of more than 130 people interviewed in the book.
And I think that would be her message to this generation. Just keep moving forward. And if you get knocked down, get up and keep moving, because America gives you that opportunity to be able to fight for the things that you believe in.
Heckler's daughter-in-law remembers her as someone who always persevered and followed their dreams.
The story of Margaret Heckler is always about when she was in a situation, whether it was Congresswoman, HHS Cabinet Secretary, or Ambassador, it was the why not that she would want to say to all Americans. That there's no reason to keep things as status quo. It's time to move forward and make change.
Margaret Heckler commissioned the Heckler Report in 1985, which studied the health disparities among minorities and led to the creation of the Office of Minority Health. She also expanded hospice care for all Americans under Medicare. I'm Kelly Sullivan for your local station, Boston 25 News.